Well, Anna Bligh this afternoon completed a 50-seat whirlwind tour ending at her electorate office in South Brisbane. The ABC's state political reporter Chris O'Brien caught up with her there.
Anna Bligh, welcome to 7:30 Queensland.
Great to be here, Chris.
I know you're not keen yet for post-mortems, but just looking at the campaign for a few seconds, whether you think it was good, bad or indifferent, did it make an impact? Did it change anybody's mind?
Well, it's very hard to know that until we see the result tomorrow. But I started this campaign saying that we faced an uphill battle, that we were the underdog in a David and Goliath battle, and that has increasingly proved to be the case. We've been battling a very strong mood for change, and we saw it in 2006, we saw it in 2009, we defied political gravity on both of those elections, and the reality is you can't continue to do that forever.
So people have made up their minds, in other words, you think, this time?
Well, I think there are still, as there always is, people who are undecided in every electorate. Obviously, as we've got closer and closer, more and more people make up their mind. There is a very strong mood for change, I acknowledge that, and as I said, we've defied political gravity on a number of occasions. It's equally true that in Queensland our political history is that when we do decide to change government, we do it fairly emphatically. So,
as you've pointed out, I haven't heard you say things like this before. You're asking people to not give Campbell Newman too many seats.
Well, if the polls that we've seen this week are replicated tomorrow, then there's no doubt we're set to see a landslide victory and a change of government to the LNP. If the polls were replicated, we'd actually see them holding a greater percentage of seats than has ever been held by any Queensland Premier. And I don't think that's a healthy thing, and I think a lot of Queenslanders would hesitate, even those who are looking for a change. So, my message has been to Queenslanders this week, if you're thinking about a change, think long and hard before you change your vote, because I think a Campbell Newman government without any limits or fetter to their power will mean that our environment will suffer. We've already seen in their announcement on their costings yesterday that they intend to fund election commitments by service and job and wage cuts in the public sector.
Sure, but the thing is that must stick in your throat a little bit to have to talk like that, surely, after what you've been through, to have to say to people, don't vote for me, but you're not going to vote for me, but be careful how many seats you give the other bloke.
Well, in saying that, I am saying vote for one of my candidates. I think people do know that out there across Queensland, I've got some very talented, young, energetic and hard-working members of Parliament. And I think in some of those electorates, they will be recognised and people will hang on to them. When you've been a very strong voice and a strong champion for your community, particularly in regional Queensland or even in the city where people get to know you very well, you can fight the flow, you can swim against the tide, and I know I've got some people who are doing a lot of hard work to do just that.
Let's talk about policy. In the first week of the campaign, you went very strong on education, and Minds to Minds has been one of the keynotes of the Labor campaign. The LNP's had some strong policies too. After the end of the campaign, would you see the policy debate's been a bit of a draw?
Well, I think that Labor's policies have been very big visions for Queensland. Our policies have been crafted around an idea of the Queensland we'd want to see for the 21st century. So the Minds to Minds idea is about grabbing the economy of today, the mineral wealth that is on our doorstep, and strategically using it to create the new economy of tomorrow. This is an Australian first. Similarly, our idea for a green corridor that would see a conservation belt from the border to the beach. Nowhere else in Australia is doing this. I don't see any of Mr Newman's policies which are leading Australia or up there on international scale. And I think that is a bit of the difference between us, that we have, as a Labor government, always looked to how do we take Queensland to the next platform?
Sure.
How do we keep transforming and modernising?
Did those policies resonate, do you think?
Look, I think there are some people who will be voting Labor tomorrow because they do like what they hear from us. They do like our education commitment. They do hear me and my team talking about education constantly. I think people do know that it's Labor governments that are much more likely to protect jobs, and I think people who vote Labor tomorrow will be doing so because of that. And I do think there's a lot of people who might have otherwise voted Green, or perhaps who give Greens their first preference but will preference strongly to Labor because they see our environment policies much more strongly protecting Queensland than anything the LNP has offered. In fact, I think other than planting a few trees, I haven't seen any significant environmental policy.
I'm pessimistic about getting an answer here, but any regrets?
Oh, look, I think in whatever you do in life, you go back with hindsight and think, well, I might have done this differently or that differently.
Give us two things then.
Well, I haven't done the analysis yet, Chris, but I will. I mean, you know, I am someone who likes to learn from the experiences I have, but I'm not someone who wallows around looking at the past. I'm someone who focuses very much on what's next, what's the future hold, and how can I be part of shaping it.
But mistakes were made, obviously.
I don't think there's a campaign ever in the history of politics on any side where people would say that there weren't things they could have done better. But I do think that we've had a very strong campaign. I've been very proud of my members and my team out there on the ground. I know they've done, thousands and thousands of door knocking, phone calls. I don't think there's a single one of my team that's taken a single vote for granted, and I'm very proud of the work they've done.
Campaign highlight for you?
Well, for me, it's people. One of the reasons that I got into politics, and my observation is people who enjoy politics on all sides of the spectrum are people who love being with people and get energised by that. And for me, being out there every day talking to people, I do get energised. For some people, they can't believe that, but I've enjoyed campaigning, and every single day I've met, fascinating, interesting Queenslanders who are doing remarkable things.
And you said goodbye to them, really?
Well, I'm not giving up anything. I've been out there in 50 seats in 5 days because I believe it's my job to fight for every vote and to not give up. So, I know what the polls are saying, and I'm not going to be sugarcoating that, but I think there are seats out there that we can still hold, and I want my team out there doing just that.
And a campaign lowlight, would the road interruption in the first week or two, would that be the lowlight?
No, look, I think I was very distressed to see what happened in Townsville, particularly after everything we went through last year. The storm that we saw rip through Townsville. It really, brings back a flood of pretty sad memories. And for those people, while the rest of Queensland will be out, not everyone celebrates elections, but I do think that people feel that we're participating in a big, strong democratic event. But for people in Townsville, they are going through something shocking as they really don't know where they're going to live and how they're going to fix their homes, and I'm thinking of them too.
Do you have 2 speeches ready for tomorrow night?
Chris, you'll hear me talk tomorrow night, and I'm happy to talk to you about it then.
Premier, thanks for your time.
Thank you.